in this section, which is our last one in this module of HTML fundamentals, we are going to look at how to structure our page or creating layouts with HTML elements. So here we have an outline here, which we are going to see currently. So here we are going to talk with semantic meaning, that is those tags with semantics and those ones that do not have. And mainly we are going to look at divs and span, and then we are going to look at other semantic elements like main, section, article, nav, aside, figure, and footer. So here we are at VS Code, and we have our normal layout. That's normal document with doc type, root element HTML, the head there with the normal meta tags and title, and then I've added the heading. This time I've not added our comments like we did with form, because form, as you notice, it was long session. So what we do with this one, which is usually the easiest part when it comes to HTML, obviously there'll be those areas that you feel they're a little bit difficult, but when it comes to structuring HTML, I usually feel like I'm designing. Like, this is part of designing. For me, I like designing and structuring layouts with HTML. It brings me closer to that part of me which I love about designing. I noted earlier we have two types of tags here: the tags that have semantics and the tags that do not have semantics. Let me quickly jog your mind. You remember our forms? So I haven't crossed it down. It is here. You remember how we are doing like input, that this is the label, and then we have an input, and then all of a sudden we are having all these breaks. This one, what we usually do here is to change what we are having here and put that in a div. So let me quickly show you. I don't know whether it will open here. Let me try and see. Yeah, sure, it has opened. Here it is. So what we do, I'll add my div here around. Let's just remove this one so we can remind the breaks here, so that we can remind ourselves how it used to look like. Now that's how the form looks like without those breaks. Now let's add our divs so that you can see what it does. These are divs there. So I'll quickly move these guys up there, and then repeat the same with the div there, and move these guys there. Now you can see, now our label and input form, they are each one of them are in different line compared to the way they were. The previously they were like a continuous line moving from left to the right. By adding div, we actually added something, a tag that have what we call block level tag. So the normal one, like the one we have in the label and input, they are inline tags. So what I've done, I will attach a link to that one. So we have our content here, and if we go to this section here, these are content. We have block level elements, and with block level elements, you can see further the discussion about block level element. And then below this block level element, we have inline elements. These are type of tags that follow in fact, what you usually do, the inline level elements, you usually nest them inside block level elements, and then in block level elements, there are those elements that are able to be nested inside other block elements, and there are some that you cannot nest within other block level elements. So the whole discussion is here. I will link that link below so that you can go and see and have that more understanding of block level element, and also more understanding of inline level element. So what we just did here with our form, we've actually added this div as a block level element, but with divs, there is no semantic meaning. We simply change the visual appealing. So if we inspect our form here, let's inspect it. Here is our form. You notice it is running from the div. This is a div. Yeah, it is running from left to right, and it fills the whole page. And without this div, let's comment them. The first one, So without that div, okay, I've saved the wrong thing. Without that div, what we have is more like a continuous line. Let's go back here. And you see my highlight, that's the blue one. And you see the one when I'm hovering on top of input, you see they do not span to the full width. But this one, it spans to the full width. The difference is that the div does not have semantic meaning. It's the same thing when it comes to other tags like span. So this is the div. Let's add here. This is the div. Now semantic meaning. So if we want to style something and we want to add that block level sort of appeal, we use the div. Another element that you will see more often is the span tag. This span tag, it's inline, unlike the div. Typically, we usually use it when it comes to if you have something like a complex heading and you want to break that heading into subsections. Maybe you have like a big part of a heading and then a small part of a heading. So let's see here on my profile page. I think telling you is not as fair as if you see it. Look at this page here. So here I have I am Mark Njoroge. If you see this I am here, the part that we have I am, this is small, and then Mark Njoroge is large. But if we inspect this element here, that let us inspect it and see. As you can see, I'm having H1, and also what I've done, I've added small, and if I wanted to style it differently, I simply went ahead and add that span. Yeah, in fact, as you can see, we have the title here and span here, and you can see we have some sort of styling. And then we have the small one here, which also have its own styling. We talk more about styling, but I wanted to illustrate to you when we are using span and when we are using div, what would be the difference. But when it comes to semantic meaning, these two do not have semantic, and that's why we have those elements that have semantic, so that when we design our pages, we can add semantics. So let's add this one. This is an inline element or tag. And the best way to see that is to inspect it here. We also go back to inspect it, and you can see the difference. That one span all the way to the head, and then the span here does not span to the head, and is usually fit within things like paragraph here, as I have illustrated, and you can also fit it inside other type of elements like H1 or heading elements. So quickly, let's go to those semantics. So we have one of them is main. Okay, now I have to go back and do our comment. We have main here, then we have section, then we have article, and then we have aside, and then we have, I suppose, header, and then we have footer. Another one that I would like to add here, but more in the context of block level elements, is the nav. All of these, I always try to see them as one sort of a group of element. So with main, we usually write them as main. And the reason why you want to use main in a page is that when you think about your page, you may think of those elements that part of the page, of the main agenda of the page, and then there are those elements that are within the page, yes, but they have different context, or they add different context to the page. And typically when it comes to main, we usually have a single main for a single page, and we do not have another main nesting inside another main. That's the only rule that we have with main. When it comes to sections, and this is usually most important, that is a section tag here. Do not confuse this one with the select. So that is the section tag. Section tag usually offer sort of when you think about a main section or a main part of the page. Usually we have subsection, things that fit within themselves. And the best way to identify a main section is that the section usually have its own title. And let me take you back to my profile here so that it is easier for you to visualize this one. Look at this one. When you think at this page here, that is the Makunjaroga here, we have like this part of our section. But when you look at this part of our section, look at it more like an introduction. That is, it introduces the topic. So if it introduces the topic, that means it is not part of the main content. So this one should stay around here, and here we call it something like a header there. You see, that will be the header, and it will be this part of these sections where we have this image and this part of the design. Then below here we have like a profile section, which more like it's within. Now we are getting to the main theme of the page. The main theme of this page is to display our profile and details. So here we are thinking part like profile, and then we are thinking of part like projects, and then we are thinking of this section like favorite section, and then we are thinking of section like packs. We are thinking parts a section like contact me, and also a section like project. But when we come to this section here, there we've seen like several sections we have. Let me say this will be section, and then let's add more section there, and then we've reached to the end of the main. So we go to the next part of defining or laying out the page. So here we add something like footer. Actually, it's footer, not font. Footer. So here we add a footer. So footer is like this part of a page that is separate from the main content, but it summarizes like that section. You can think of, okay, here it's where we end. We give these terms and policies and sitemap, and that's where we end the page. Also, footer by itself, you can use footer in different sections, because you see a section, it's like a part of a main that have its own idea. So when we have a section can also have its own header. Here we can have this section can have its own header. Just like when I was telling you, when it comes to block level elements, some of the elements or tags can be nested inside other tags. And here we can have like a main content of this page. And perhaps we might think, okay, because we do not have more than one main in a single page, we can use a div here and call it main content there. But also when it comes to the end here, we can say this is the footer of this section, and we add a few things there, and then we say this is the footer of this section. So here we have what we I just did. But as you can see from this page is that technically, visually, there is nothing. You can see anything. But when we add styling, let's go back to my page. And when we add styling, and we have all these sections with different meanings and all this, what you see is that they are like different sections adding different meaning to this page. So this is how you use main, section, and header. But there is another tag that we haven't seen here, which usually go hand in hand with a section. And also it can go inside an article. Think of something like a blog post, or something like a comment, or something like a card that you can click and go to another section. Maybe something like a teaser that you want to add. And with this one, we add an article. This is usually an article tag, and it can have like its own heading. And you can see how we are doing. This page have a single heading 1, then this section has heading 2, and each and every other section will have heading 2. And then when it comes to something like article, we can have like heading 3, because in terms of hierarchy, we want to give our page meaning. You can decide to style your headings with CSS in a different way, but also ensure to keep the structure of the page. We want your page to have that semantic meaning. Without that one, you won't be taking the full advantage of HTML5. So here we have our H3 here, and we can say this article title. And this article title can have its own body, yeah, right? And we can have like paragraph tags here with this is the body. You can even add your more like a footer there for that article. I don't usually like to do footers inside articles because I don't think they work well. I also don't like adding more than one footer in a page. I usually like to have like a single footer, a single head, and then a single section, different sections, and articles can go within sections. So if you have like another article here, that's we can have another article there. So with like title 1, let's add title 2, and here we have title 3. I think by doing this, you are starting to have these ideas of how to structure your content. And then this should be good, so that we can see the page difference. So you can see like here we are having like this sort of an article. Let me highlight for you. You can see the way it looks. It's actually very much where it's well organized here. And then we have this section here. This is the first section with okay, let's call it section with section with articles. Good. Now we have section with articles here, and then with this within this section we have this section there, and then we have like a heading there and different articles. You can see how when I highlight that one, you can see all these one. The main is a block level tag header here, and we can have, let's have our H2 here and call it, this is our header. So that we can see here, this is our header, and let's in fact move this content, that content, into this section here. Okay, so that they can look like we are introducing them. And then we have the main section there, and then we have this section here, and then let's add like a footer here and say P, this is our footer. And then you can add like your copyright there. So what I want to add, I will introduce you another type. This is semantic break. So that is that one. You can see the HR. I call it semantic break. I suppose that's how it's supposed to be called, or there is another name like horizontal rule. Yeah, that is another name they call it. So here it is, and then it breaks that one. So something else I usually like to do with our footer is add something like small, so that we can have like that text there. So if you look at my profile page here, this is the one that we will design at the end. We look at our footer. This is our footer here. You can see the difference. You almost realize that we've reached at the footer because it just looks like a footer, even visually. But now I know you'll be able to judge what is a footer and what's not a footer. And then let's add this another horizontal roof here. And yeah, those sections should have their own like a structure. And then each of these articles, let's also add another here, so that we can separate our heading section and our main section here. So we have those different sections separate from each other. So that's how you use section, articles, and heading. That's the headers. And also I've also introduced the structure of a page by adding this H2 and H3. And you can see the hierarchy that we are adding to the page. Now with that, the next thing that we are going to add is this aside. Let's say here in this section, we have something that we want to add. That's a little bit of maybe some context that, well, it's related to this section, but we think, well, this is an afterthought. So what we usually do here, we add an aside there, and we say p. So if you've seen those content whereby we have like a content that is flowing continuous, and this is very much useful to magazines where you see a content that is flowing, but all of a sudden they have like this a small section that they put in that magazine. So this is usually the use of this aside. Sometimes you will see okay, where is it? This is something relating to this content but different in nature. So this is what we use on the side there. Sometimes we can use here in the body. I think it would be good to use here in the body because that's where we have more content about our section. But also if you look at this one, also it is a block level element. So now that we've seen that one, let's add another complexity. So if you look at our page here, we have this section which we have our navigation, right? So technically navigation, they're not part of header. They are separate elements from other part of the body. So sometimes you will see some people put nav aside here. You have that like aside because it's something that's related to the page but different. And you also see nav there. That is the element that we call the navigation. And the way we add navigation, you can add something like a p tag here and say my logo. That can be your logo there. And then we add another list. Now you can see how the previous element that we were learning, they are coming into use in our page. So these are our future here. And then let's add like 3 times 3 of them, and then add an anchor element inside them. And so here we not add anything. So we usually put that hash there. Let me quickly do that. Actually, that's hash. And then let's call this one projects, and then okay, should be inside an anchor tag there. And then let's call this contact. Okay, and then skills, right? So that's how it should be. And let's organize them. And here we have more like our navigation, and well, it's not that pretty, but I think you're getting an idea how we are adding all this complexity and then bringing all these elements that we'll be learning together and grow it into a page that you can be able to start making sense of them. Look at it. Now we have something like an aside there. We have a navigation. We have a paragraph. Then we are adding another list, and then the list, and then we have an anchor element there, a tag. Then we have header here, and then we have the main section, and then the section, then we have articles, and then we have this hierarchy, H1, H2, H3, and then paragraph, more like body. And then we've seen sometimes some of these tags with meaning, they do not fit within a page, or you cannot express them well. So what we usually do, we add a div element like that, like what we have seen here. I think there is another one. Yes, here we have a main, and because we cannot have more than one main in a page, we add a div here to demarcate this section as the main content of this section. So guys, you see how all these things fit together, and I'm so much excited because now with all the effort that you put through, now we can able to see the effort or reap the benefit of all these things that we've been doing from the first video that we did on this module to now almost, I think it's the 7th video in this module, and we see all this play together when we go and design this page or structure this page, because we start with structuring, and then from structure we can move to style it. Are you excited? I'm so much excited. So that video of structuring our profile page, it is here on my right side, and if you've not watched the previous one that we were talking about form, it is also here. You can see it there. Go and watch them and do not skip any of this video. And if you like more of my content, please subscribe and share this content with fellow developer people of the like-minded. Till next time, bye and take care.